feel free to download the full podcast on all major streaming sites, including iTunes, Apple Music and Spotify. Also, check out the KRN store and grab yourself the latest KRN merchandise and accessories using the keyword KRN10 for 10% discount on all purchases. Thanks for listening and enjoy the interview.
Our little crew was game, but f***ing reckless. He was more infamous then for, obviously he'd taken hostages, he was known for that, and ripping the roof off of Broadmoor. The cannabis sort of went out of the jails, and the jails become full of f***ing heroin. Got involved in the people trafficking. They're acting like they're f***ing gangsters and villains. Behind the door they get big lumps of bird or whatever else. You'll see how f***ing strong they really are.
Hi guys and welcome back to KRN TV. Today we're delighted to have another fantastic guest who's been kind enough to invite us down to his house in somewhere around Dartford area. We don't want to tell the exact location because a few weirdos probably...
It's actually West Kingsdown.
Well, a few weirdos don't know the exact location. Today we're delighted to be joined by former career criminal who's now turned his life around, Ray Bishop. Ray, thank you for having us down to your house today.
Absolutely.
How are you doing?
Pleasure. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. Just trying to stay alive like the rest of us.
So, for people who don't know, Ray's had the most incredible and crazy story at certain times. He was former armed robber at certain points, former in the drug business, drug smuggler, people smuggler, and even on the run at certain points, one of Britain's most wanted men. Everything that you could be as a criminal, this guy's done.
Yeah.
And obviously after that he had to deal with the consequences, obviously a lot of jail time. And hopefully, obviously, we'll share your story.
Yeah,
we'll see how destructive and how explosive and how certain points within the criminal world. And I'm sure once they hear some of the stories, of hopefully it should put them off. Obviously, the life of crime, you know.
Yeah, I hope so.
And it's been a fantastic story of yours. There's obviously redemption, and now he's obviously a successful businessman, got a scaffolded business, doing very well, better than ever in his life, and happier than ever.
Published author
as well. He's already got the book Outlaw out, and he's got another book hopefully coming out in 2021.
Well, it's called The Smuggler's Roulette. It's like a social narrative commentary of the drug world in the 90s and whatever else in the smuggling world. It's going to be pretty explosive, but again, not written from a place of ego. It's just I want to get the story out there, and you know.
When are you hoping to have that out?
Well, it's with the coronavirus, it's made meetings difficult because I'm actually in talks with Virgin at the moment about my first autobiography, re-releasing it with a couple more edits and whatever else. And so Virgin, I mean, I'm tied to Virgin. I'm actually a Virgin author, so I'm tied to them. So everything goes at their pace. So they're looking at doing this with my Outlaw, and then hopefully they're going to press with Smuggler's Roulette, looking for a release hopefully within the next year. Fingers crossed. It's written, it's just being edited. So
indeed, but I think it's only right that we go obviously back to the start of your story to see what obviously sculpted you into the person you are, and if there's anything that you could have done to obviously avoid going on the path you did. And so whereabouts were you brought up, Ray?
I was brought up in Woolwich, South East London. So my stomping ground would be like Woolwich, Cholton, Greenwich, that sort of area, Abbeywood, Thamesmead. So that was my area really.
And so I know you had brothers. You were the youngest, weren't you?
Second youngest.
Second youngest,
yeah.
And so when you were growing up in your childhood, did any of your brothers and sisters go on a troubled path or anything like this, or your older ones? Did you follow in their footsteps?
This is the insanity of it. All my family are straight goers. It's mad. My brother did actually once get wrongly arrested for suspicion of a murder.
Yeah.
My brother actually, it was nothing to do with him whatsoever. He actually found somebody that had been murdered, done the right thing, notified the police. The police turned up and arrested my poor brother. But he's just complete straight goer, and my sisters, all straight goers. Yeah, all straight goers.
So what was, as a child, did you have any legal aspirations? What were your dreams when you were a child? What did you want to be as an adult?
Do you know what? I've often thought about this. I don't think I wanted to be a career criminal. I certainly didn't want the moniker being Britain's most wanted man or whatever, and that stuff. I think I wanted to be a pilot or something, or a fireman or something normal. But if I look back, and I'm to be brutally honest, the reality of it was I didn't have a fucking clue. I never sort of had the hymn sheet when I was a kid. I used to see everyone else sort of getting on and functioning in the world, and I don't think I ever, I mean, this is retrospective, I don't think I felt like I fitted in anywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I didn't have any aspirations to be anything really. And by the time I sort of, I was a dad at 16, I sort of left home at 16, and I was just led from pillar to post and led astray. I mean, don't get me wrong, I made my own choices, but I didn't have any sense of direction. I wish somebody had got hold of me when I was that age and said to me, give me the little bit of guidance or whatever else, but would I have heard it? I don't know. But
were you boxing as a kid?
I did box. I boxed because I went to St Peter's school, and St Peter's had one of the greatest boxing academies, like St Peter's ABC.
Yep.
But the head the school caretaker at the time, a fella called Mr. Gans, lovely man. When we used to come into school the next day, all the boxing stuff used to still be hung up from the boxing club the night before. So Mr. Gans used to get a few of us after school and train us, and he would say, right, you got the... And we got into it as a kid. I didn't have that many amateur fights as a kid or anything like that, but I trained, and it's something that's always been with me, and I was trained in jail like a fucking lunatic and whatever else, and
But there's no aspirations as a kid to be a boxer when you were older. It was sort of just something you did. Obviously,
believe it or not, my aspiration as a kid, I wanted to be a snooker player. I love snooker. When I was a kid, I said I love snooker. It was a big thing, wasn't it? Like, and I say this about. I think it's one of never. What's it we call it? Your never butter up your idols. Because when I was a kid, my nan used to live in Plumstead Common, and Steve Davis lived round the corner. Yeah. He's from Plumstead. Yeah. He's not like, which is next to Woolwich. He gives I'm from Romford, and he's not. He's from fucking Plumstead. He went to Abbey Wood School. But anyway, I knocked on his door as a kid for his autograph, and he went, "Don't knock here again." I think you fucking bastard, Joe.
Generally, it's always heartbreaking.
Oh, he's a prick.
I've met a couple of them in my time. My sort of idols or heroes I looked up to, and it sadly didn't live up to the billing, unfortunately.
No, he was a fucking arsehole. Like, I was a little kid, and then as a kid, I was a little damaged fucking kid and lost and whatever else. And, it would have been nice if he'd have said to me, "What do you want to be?" But, that was my experience of it.
And they could be life-changing moments for a kid, can't they? If he does treats it a different way or does...
Yeah, but I say this about snooker, why I wanted to be a snooker player. Believe it or not, I was a fucking gifted snooker player. I'm one of these strange people that whatever I tend to put my hand to, I tend to become very good at it, rather than, as long as it ain't fucking singing. But snooker, the first time I played snooker, I was popping fucking balls. And by the time I was in my early 20s, a lot of my criminality, where it was a lot of snooker halls in South London, like Deptford Snooker Hall, Woolwich Snooker Hall, so all the faces used to go play cards and whatever else, and that's where we used to sell a lot of our bits and bobs and have our meets and whatever else, and I used to play snooker fucking religiously 4 or 5 times a week, sometimes 5-6 hours a fucking day, and I was knocking in 70-80 breaks, 90 breaks, and I've had a few centuries.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, you should have been a professional player then.
Well,
I think anyone who can make a century, who's ever made a century in their life, should be doing it, because it's fucking hard to put a few points around.
I had 124 or something. I lost count, but we guesstimated it was about 124. I cleared the table by one fucking red.
Yeah, Jesus.
A lot of yellows and blues or whatever else, but I've cleared the table before.
Well, maybe we might see you on the snooker tables in time to come then.
I nearly had a 147 once, but I missed the first black.
And have you played snooker recently?
My fucking eyesight, I'm about to see down the fucking table. If you can get me one about that big.
You never thought about having the laser stuff done?
Well, I did actually think about having it done. My sister had it done very successfully. She said it's fucking wonderful, and then 2 years later she couldn't see again, and she was 20 grand in debt or something.
No.
So
what's happened to her eyes today? Her eyes
deteriorated again, but she's got glaucoma in one eye, so
yeah,
so she's got some problems with her eyesight. But it's the reason why I wear dark glasses. So people might watch this and think, "Oh, he's got a baseball cap, dark glasses, trying to look like a gangster." No, I wear these glasses like we explained earlier. I get a lot of headaches. It's because I've done a lot of prison, a lot of artificial lights, and it's fucking damaged my eyesight. Like I get, if I get too much light, it fucking keeps causing me headaches.
It's fucking nightmare. You have to get the marker pen to scrub over the things.
Well, what you don't realise, these lights, and I spoke to an optician about it, is they flicker at like, if you look at a UV light like that,
the school lights, isn't it?
Yeah, they flicker at the corner, and your pupils are constantly trying to adjust to it. So I get a lot of fucking headaches in the optic nerve. Damage me fucking eyes.
But so going back to child, so as a child, when did you first sort of start becoming a little nuisance or start getting into sort of crime and stuff like this? Was it at school? Was it when leaving school?
I did stay in school. I mean, I went to school in Abbey Wood, so I mean, I grew up with all the travellers from Abbey Wood and whatever else, and we were all little fuckwits. I mean, we used to have shoplift and whatever else. And we didn't have a lot, we didn't have a lot. I mean, let's get it right, this was the early 80s, no one had a lot, and we used to shoplift whatever else, and it was cool to start smoking and have a little drink and whatever else and be a bit of a rebel. It was just sort of, it was cool. I think that's where I felt I belonged. The nerdy kids and everything else. I'm actually quite intelligent. I am actually a bit of a nerd, but I felt better there. I felt more at home, with the other dysfunctionals. I didn't come from an house of money or anything like that. There was not a lot of money in the house. My dad was an alcoholic who left when we were very young. My mum done the best she could, fantastic Irish woman, done the best she could, but we didn't have a lot. So if I could fucking nick something from a shop or whatever else, it was the norm. Didn't really think anything of it. It was, yeah.
So that's what probably instilled the sort of criminal mentality at that age, where you're doing stuff just to survive, and it's sort of, there's nothing wrong with. Well, obviously there is. It's going to land you down a thing, but it's not the worst reason to be committing crime, isn't it? If you're doing it for.
Well, we was when you grow up on like council estates and all that. Back then, not so much now. I mean, things are fragmented, but back then it was very community. It was like old London. I call it old London. It was like people were very community minded. People looked out for each other, and you learnt the fucking code. Like a lot of these little savages now. I mean, a lot of them are lost or whatever else. But there's people out there. They behave like fucking savages because they never learnt the fucking code. Steal from your own. Don't shit on your own doorstep. Don't grass on each other. Look out for each other. All these sort of things we learn, including what types of crimes we would do and wouldn't do. Now, I'm not playing the moral high ground, but I never burgled people's houses and things like that. To me, I saw that as fucking scumbag.
100%.
You know what I mean? I weren't into anything like that, burgling people's houses and things like that. And we fucking looked down and hated anyone who did, because none of us fucking had a lot. And I've been burgled myself, whatever else. It's a horrible thing that some fucking shitbag comes through your fucking window and nicks what few possessions you've got. You're not insured or anything like that. Horrible fucking crimes. So we never done things like that. We burgled shops and things because we saw them as fair game. But,
Never individuals.
Never.
But, like you say, I don't think there's any code of conduct in the criminal world at all anymore,
It's savage.
Where,
dog eat dog now, isn't it?
A couple of other people, they're saying before there used to be criminals had different trades and all stuff like this. You might have.
What a skillful.
There's lots of different ones, whether it's the
knowledge was passed on.
Defences, this one. There's all different trades within the criminal. Now it's just all drugs, isn't it? And drug addicts.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. Knowledge has been when I was young. Knowledge was passed on. We had the pavement artists. When I was in the 80s, it was the eras of the Sweeneys and things like that. We looked up to the fucking armed robbers, and I was fortunate because living so close to Bermondsey and Deptford and places like that, you had like the A-list fucking armed robbers, no matter what anyone says, they all seem to come from that area. That's Definitely. Why Bermondsey was known as bandit country, and I'm fortunate enough, I knew a lot of the Premier League fucking armed robbers there that were older than me, and you used to fucking look up to these people.
Yeah, so that's what sort of leads on the path as well, isn't it?
Well, most definitely, we were looking and searching. I think for me, I was looking and searching for a father figure. What's it mean to be a man? When I was young, I was this frightened, damaged fucking kid. I wasn't this big tough kid or whatever else. I mean, you might read about me and think, he was a bit higher. I wasn't. I was a frightened, damaged fucking kid. So you look at these people who give off an aura of fucking strength, and you think, I want to be like them, or at least act like them. It doesn't make you them, but you will act like them. And that's the fucking danger. A lot of these kids, nowadays, they're acting like they're fucking gangsters and villains. But when they get behind the door and they get big lumps of bird or whatever else, you'll see how fucking strong they really are when mentally they can't fucking cope. And you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, break anyone. So, when was your first arrest, Greg?
My first arrest, I was about, fucking hell, kid. Our first arrest, I was about 15 years old. I think it's a nick in a car stereo, a car chase. I nicked a Ford Orion with my mate. We got chased by police. We couldn't even fucking drive properly.
She was driving, you?
Yeah, I drove. I got away down the end of this road and I smashed into another car, and I've got away, and being a kid, I've done some fucking brilliant driving there. I've done well. The coppers, when they nicked me a couple of months later, because they fucking knew it was me. We was all well known. The old Bill knew us all by name and fucking number. Yeah. They when they nicked me, they said we pulled back because the way you were driving, you were putting other road users at risk. There's me thinking I'm a fucking brilliant driver. I used to go from first gear to fourth gear.
Well, fair play to them, because I always see this on these police shows, and they should, when someone's recklessly driving, they should hold back. So they did, fair play to them for that.
Well, I mean, when I was a kid, it was the eras of nicking cars, and cars were so easy to nick. I had 2 or 3 mates actually get killed in police car chases, it was fucking tragic. A friend of mine, Danny Gales, got chased by police. He nicked an XR3i, crashing at 100 odd mile an hour. Another mate of mine, Mark Strickland, crashed a motorbike with him and his girlfriend on the back. They had a young child. They reckon that the speed of impact was like 120 miles an hour, like literally fucking killed them both instantly. So tragedy. No, I think nicking cars and things like that, what we've done, I mean, I look back and I think...
If you think back to that first arrest, when you first got arrested, was that brownie points within the gang? Were you excited to get arrested?
It was like Goodfellas. You watch Goodfellas and you say, when Henry Hill first gets arrested, I mean, he ended up being a right wrong and but when he first get arrested, you've earned your stripes, you kept your mouth shut. I knew from the first fucking criminal code that was installed in me as a kid, you do not trust a cop, you do not talk to a cop or anything, you fucking don't. Yeah. And we never did. It was us and fucking them. And in the early 80s, it was, I mean, we're just on top of the Brixton riots and everything else. So the old Bill back then were fucking tough. And I look back now sometimes, I'm going to say this to be controversial, I think it was a better era for policing than what it is now. It's so fucking lefty now and so soft, and the way that people get away with what they get away with now, because the police are a bit fucking namby-pamby. Back then they were fucking hard bastards and you were fucking scared of them.
But the police it's better if the police give someone a slap. As a kid, if they catch a kid on the street, they give them a slap because they're messing about. They don't nick them, don't take them, give them a slap, and obviously... Sometimes when you nick kids too early and they end up getting a criminal record, it can end up impacting their life,
Well, everyone wants to label everyone now, don't they? It's, he's suffering from this disorder, that disorder, that disorder. We were suffering from need a clip round a fucking ear-hole disorder. Yeah. And some of the coppers who ended up fucking being right bastards, you respected them, and in a funny way, they respected you. And I say that because I've seen some of them in later life or whatever else, and I've been pulled over once at this copper, and he said this one particular copper, we used to call him Action Man. He was a fucking bastard. Jack, his name was. I'll tell you, this is a fucking funny story. He hit me over the head one day with a mag light because he knew I was itching to run, and he fucking hit me over the head because he could see I was going to run. He said, "You still going to run?" And I went, "No," but that was just the norm. You didn't go to the police station and make complaint. He hit me. It was the fucking norm. And then I saw him on an escort in Belmarsh. I was coming out on production. I was in Belmarsh at the time. I was in fucking Segregation in Belmarsh for some bollocks. I think me and my cousin chinned someone on House Block 4. And I was in Seg, so when I went on escort, I went with 2 screws for another case that I had down in Maidstone at the time, years ago. And there was armed police outside waiting to take a high-risk Cat A out, because at the time the special unit was closed and they was all on House Block 4. So they was waiting to take him out, and it was fucking Jack. He was a policeman. He was still a policeman, but now he was a firearms officer and thingy. And he seen me coming out, and he fucking smiled, and he said to me, and do you know what? I thought, fair play to him. He said to me, well, "Get out of this fucking life. Ain't you fucking learned nothing yet?" And you think, and I look back, they weren't all bastards. I mean, it was us and them. But looking back, my treatment by some of them were bastards. But some of them, you could see they were in it for the job and they wanted to make a difference. There was many a time a copper sat down in front of me in a police station and said, "What are you doing? Why don't you?" Because I could switch from being the thingy to being like half a reasonable, nice fucking fella, because at the core I am a nice person. So they'd say, "Get out of this life, what are you doing? You're intelligent, you're articulate, you're not stupid. But when you're in it, you're fucking in it." You know what I mean?
crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are good police out there, and certain times within the criminal industry, they can half be the police, they're all bad, all this sort of stuff. Go to Africa, one of these lawless places, and see if you want peace.
Well, it's the same as prison officers. I mean, you imagine I've been to, and I don't say this for a fact, this ain't ego, nothing what I say is ego, it's all fact. You know, I've been to 31 different prisons. Now, the reason I say that is because I actually worked it out when I wrote my book. I've been to 31 different prisons.
How many jails are there in the country? You must have been to everyone in the country.
There's more than that, but I've been to 31. I've been north, south, east, west. You know, I've been fucking everywhere over the years, and yeah, I've met some good prison officers, some bad ones, some good civilian stuff. I remember the 80s, like when I first started going to jail. I think my first prison sentence was about 1989, something like that. Young offenders institutions. You never saw a woman prison officer. Very rare. You'd see a woman welfare officer, but you didn't have women prison officers.
Too many. They should be in the male jails.
Well, it was all men.
Dangerous place for them to be.
Yeah, it was all men. It's.
What was that first sentence for? The wires?
I think you know what? I think it was nicking car stereos, just stupid misdemeanors,
Standards.
but a fucking pile of them. The reality of it was, well, you used to get, you know, there'd be when I was a kid, there'd be a time when I was in court on the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday, every fucking day you go court and you'd be in front of say it'd all be for stupid bollocks, nicking something. Being allowed to be carried in a stolen car, theft, fucking, just all silly fucking charges. You'd get nicked, you'd get bail, but eventually, after they've exhausted all avenues like DC, detention centre, I was sentenced to that first of all, community service, all the usual.
You go through the process.
You go through that and then they go, right, short, sharp shock.
No life left and you've got to go away.
Short, sharp shock.
And so for you, was it another one of those good fella moments? Because obviously, clearly, it didn't put you off the life of crime, going to the YOs at that age, and it's just another one. A few of your older friends gone, and it's just you wanted that.
Well, the funny thing is in that era, and anyone who's been involved in crime like that, it's a fucking small world. It's a small world, and the first time I went away, I went to Feltham Young Offenders Institution. It had just turned over from a Borstal or DC or whatever it was, and it just turned to HMYOY, which was the Young Offenders Institution. They just renamed them, rebranded them to make them a bit more soften on the kids or whatever. And they were fucking gladiator schools. But when I first went to Feltham, I was fucking terrified. Anyone who's ever been to prison, the first time they've been to prison, if they're honest, especially when they were young, they'll say they're fucking terrified. Of course I was fucking scared. But the worst thing that could have happened when I got there, it's as soon as I got on the wing, I fucking knew everyone. Like, it was all people from my area, or brothers, older brothers, or friends, cousins, and as soon as you got there, it
could be a problem in a way because you end up going there. You don't have a hard time. You've all your mates and all this sort of stuff.
It's like a bit like you know, they call prisons a university of crime. For us in that era, it fucking was.
Yeah.
You know, these were tough times. I don't make excuses, but to give it a social narrative, you know, this was fucking Thatcher's Britain. It was hard on us. It was fucking, the country was in recession. We were like the lost generation. Yeah. The fucking council inner city kids. Yeah. And you go into these places and all the fucking people you've grown up with or whatever, so it was all fucking there. And it was like a stripe. And, you know, it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I know from experience you are feel as fucked up as it is, maybe a little bit proud to have done a thing, and then you think, right now, I can be with the real criminals, because unless you've been in jail, you can't be the real criminals, and it's...
Well, it's a break as well. I think this is, if I'm brutally honest, some of the times when I was getting nicked back in that era, I think, fucking, it's like a welcome relief, a break, because my life was so fucking crazy.
Yeah, you were one of those proper criminals, so it was actually a holiday like
it was like a little fucking break, a little MOT.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The shorter sentences, like the... Yeah.
Did you ever work any straight jobs at those times in your like teenagers when you left school or anything like this? Was there any?
Do you know what? This is funny. When I first left school, I'd go involved in the crime line. Then I got a job odd carrying. Where do you think I got a job odd carrying? Belmarsh fucking prison. When they were building the fucking place, I worked on that.
You didn't build it, did you?
I helped build it. I was fucking carrying bricks and that. I was a hod carrier, and as quick as they fucking opened it, I was in there. You know, I was one of the youngest prisoners ever in Belmarsh. You know, they put me in Belmarsh when I was 19 years old.
Jesus.
It was a 21-year You had to be 21 to be in Belmarsh.
So that started up, you got
They
started
put
up
me in there fucking 19. I was just over 19 years old when Belmarsh opened, and they put me in fucking Belmarsh.
And what did you do to deserve that?
Well, because the thing is, it had just opened, Feltham and all the young offenders institutions were getting full up and wherever else. And because it was a local jail to us, and we were the local fuckwits thugs in our area, and the police viewed us as being like a menace.
Yeah, so you're already developing a bit of a name with the police.
I went to Woolwich Court one day and thought, I'm on my way to Feltham or whatever else. They fucking took me to Belmarsh. I was terrified. I was only like just over 19, little skinny fucking kid with a bit of bum fluff, and I'm fucking in Belmarsh, and all you hear is they built this jail for terrorists and fucking everything else. I end up in there.
And that's even worse. Now you're obviously a young kid, but you're around all these older criminals. Now, like you say, the University of Crime is going to get even worse. Now you're going to hear about all these ones, what they did to get caught, what they did to avoid it, and all this sort of stuff.
You meet the real deal in there. Back then, nowadays I call prisons fucking mental health hospitals. I'm not detracting from the fact there's a lot of decent, good people in there and people that have been gone astray, but they are mental health hospitals. They're people who, because there's no fucking mental health care out here and all that, you get nicked with some things. I think when you should really have help, rehab or whatever else, just bang them up, lock them up. That's their fucking attitude to everything. You know, a lot of people in prison don't need to be there.
It's mental health and a lot of addicts as well. You see people in there getting in there for stealing steaks and stuff. Why are you putting people in there for stealing steaks?
Complete fucking waste of time, because they're not going to learn nothing.
They've been in there
the fucking thing
40 times in their life. They're in there 3 times a year. They get out for 3 weeks or something like this.
Revolving door. They're not learning fuck all.
And unfortunately, now that with so much privatisation going on in terms of the jail, it's become a monetary thing, but it should never be. How can you make an industry like that a monetary thing? I don't think it should be. They shouldn't allow the privatised jails, because then it becomes a business. It shouldn't be a business.
Yeah, it's about putting bums on seats. And the greatest fucking threat to what they were going to do is privatise the probation fucking service and run it by the same people who run the fucking prisons. What a great way to keep people locked up. You
see what their ideas with these IPP sentences and all this sort of stuff. It's like how probation haven't turned around to the courts and say, look, let's do it, because they don't want these people coming off the stuff, do they?
Yeah.
They provide the jobs, don't they?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as harsh as that is and as bad as that is, it's...
Do you mind me smoking?
No, of course, carry on. Yeah, no, don't need to ask me.
Yeah, I do smoke a lot.
Yeah, no, it's... So you know when you went to, obviously you got starred up, and like you say, now you're meeting the older criminals, the serious criminals, and obviously that...
But the people that you'd heard about, this is the thing. Like I was saying to you earlier, like, my part of London was South London, and you got your North Londons, the East Londons, North London, East London and West London. South London, believe it or not, is bigger than all 3 put together. South London is the whole south of the river, so it's bigger than North London, East London, West London. So it's a big fucking place. And when Belmarsh opened, and you started to meet the people that you heard about, it's like if you live in an area like Woolwich, next door to us is Charlton, Greenwich, Deptford, Bermondsey. And you're in Woolwich, you hear about the Bermondsey crowd, you hear the names mentioned, there's certain people like that, and then when you get to meet them, and that's like how you forge alliances and friendships and whatever else, and your world becomes bigger than the little area you live in. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And the opportunities grow.
And that's what happened for me with when in younger years in prison. You get to meet people criminally who are a little bit more
advanced
than the people you're having it with, and you get pulled into things. You know what I mean? And and you forge good friendships in jail. I say this, anyone who's done a lot of prison will tell you, when you're in jail and you're around someone like 24 hours a day for like a period of time, you get that real make-up, because everyone's an actor. Everyone in life's an actor. They all put on a show what they want you to see, or whatever else, and how they want to portray themselves. When you're around people a long time, over a period of time, you sort of finds its own level. You fall into...
Yep.
And I've just been very fortunate. The people I fell into when I was were
proper people,
sensible people. You know, I don't suffer fools. I don't give it a big I am or I'm this, I'm that. I don't. But I don't suffer fools, and I can see through bollocks. I know lots of people, lots of associates, but a very small circle.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And that's how it was for me criminally. You know what I mean?
So when you first got out of that sentence there, so obviously the criminality got more serious? And
yeah. Because...
did you start working with any of these older fellas or anything like this, or did you still have your gang
first thing
your mates?
What I used to do, I'm talking about this, we're going back a long fucking era, a long way away. our asset, and I say this, we were good at nicking high performance motorbikes, high performance cars, whatever else. That gets noticed by the people out there. The Premier League fellas at the time, a lot of them, obviously, they're doing a bit of work, robbing security van, whatever else. They nick cars, whatever. We would nick cars. We'd never know what they were for. But the people who are asking for the cars and the vehicles, can you get a car, can you leave it in such a place where you know what it's for, and they give you, I should get paid 500 quid a car. Fucking, 19, 20 years of age, 500 quid, it's a fucking fortune it was, you know.
And then when you're so good at getting these cars and you're so efficient, then it's only natural that they're going to say, fucking hell, you're alright, you are. Maybe one day you're going to come along. Is that how it works?
I nicked one once and left it in a car park of a bingo hall near a certain high street, and I know it's obviously what they wanted for, and then they kind of give me the 500 quid. He took 50 quid back. I said, what's that for? He said, the stereo, because I nicked the stereo out of it. He said, he said, I had to sit in that car for 4 hours and I didn't have a fucking radio.
Once a criminal, always a criminal, isn't it? And then naturally, did you end up falling into their circles and end up maybe going on any of these jobs with the older mob?
Well, this is the thing.
Or did you just...
I don't want to portray, I don't talk bollocks. I don't want to give it the big I am. I'm not one of them. And I don't want to portray this and I was like this really fucking brilliant armed robber or whatever else. No. Our little crew was game but fucking reckless, We used to do crazy bits of work. And it was because we were trying to be like these bigger organised people. But in this era, this was like the tail end of like the big armed robbers, like the security vans and things. It was the tail end. Technology was catching up.
Yeah.
Data track, where the vehicles were all fucking data tracked and whatever else, and dyes in the bags and all this sort of stuff. And you had to know what you were doing. You really did. That was above me. I'm not going to lie. That was above my league. I would have loved to have gone on a bit of work, and I was game enough to do that. We snatched a few boxes and went bad a couple of times, but we would do reckless things, crazy, like jumping over counters like fucking cavemen and coming out with 2 or 3 grand and thinking we've had it off. Do you know what I mean? The real Premier League people were doing security vans and nicking millions of pounds. We was nicking thousands.
Yeah, well, that's what 99% of criminals are, nicking thousands and hundreds and stuff and doing sentences for this, and it's
I did have £500,000 once out of a main post office, but not in money. I'd be lying. It was paperwork, like stamps and whatever else, and me and Sony. But I got nicked for that. So I can talk about that. I actually got 3 year 9 months for it. It was more. It wasn't robbery. It was we cut the safe open and whatever else. But so I had it in paperwork and whatever else. But I never had a bit of work, armed robbery, where I had fucking hundreds of £1,000s. Yeah. But I was prolific. When we were young, we were a bit prolific. But then there was the spate of shootings, and there'd been a spate of shootings before, like there's 2 people from our area got shot dead robbing a security van. You had the Premier League lot who Johnny Ash got shot dead in outside BJM's, and well, actually at the Cardwell Estate where we grew up. Yeah. Like, I remember it well that morning when that happened.
Was this making you think twice about doing anything?
Most definitely, because we knew
you don't want to die.
They were shoot to kill, and they told us as well when the police used to pull us and all that. They told us, we will fucking kill you. We will shoot you if we catch you on a bit of work. We'll shoot you. We'll kill you. And you knew they weren't fucking about because it was going on all over London. They shot Dave fucking Ewing. He was fucking unarmed. They jumped on the bonnet of his fucking car. He was trying to pull out. They shot him through the fucking windscreen. Executioners. Yep. Yeah.
So what age was it that you got caught for the post office thing, and how did you get caught for that then?
Because some fucking idiot. There was the telephone and electric stamps. You remember you could pay your bills like that? Well, we couldn't sell them in sheets or whatever because it was blatantly obvious. We used to put them on. We used to get the books to stick them to and sell the books. And a book would be like £150. You'd sell the book. Yeah. Because the ones we'd got, a lot of them had been used, so they'd been peeled. And they had all they used to do is put a pen mark through them. So we got brake fluid and we used to wipe them to take the pen mark off. But the stickiness was gone off the back, so we used to prick stick them and stick them in the books and sell them in the books. You'd go in a post office and ask for 5 books or something, wouldn't raise an eyebrow. But we got fucking stupid because we literally had piles of them, and one person associated us walked into fucking Woolwich Post Office one day and asked for like 100 books. I said this before, didn't I? And it come on top. They knew him and who he was associated with. All our doors went one day, and we ended up getting done for it. You know, they knew it was us. They found my fingerprints on two tax discs.
And what, did you plead to it? Or?
I pleaded. I was always going to get guilty, and at the time I was arrested for. I was already in custody for conspiracy to rob Dartford main post office, where we've foamed the bell boxes up, and we used to go in, and I was nicked for conspiracy to rob that. It had been dropped to a conspiracy to burgle.
Yeah.
I was nicked for another charge. Can't remember what it was. So I was already in custody. I was already looking at a lump of bird for that. That came up. I'll tell you what I was nicked for. I was nicked for burglary of Marks and Spencers. It was a Marks and Spencers. I had quite a lot of money out of it. But cut a long story short, I was nicked for all that. So I was in custody anyway. And then when they come to charge me with that, come to interview me, I refused to be interviewed. I'll never be interviewed. I always refused to be interviewed. So they charged me with that. I knew I was fucked. My barrister at the time said, look, we're going to put this on in. You ain't going to get not guilty. This was when DNA and all that first started. So when you got nicked with a fingerprint, you could argue it was a smudge print, it's not enough, whatever, point of contact. But if they get DNA against you, it's you versus the rest of fucking Europe, innit? You know what I mean? So I was nicked for, with fingerprint, and they said, look, we'll get a DNA analysis and we can say it's 100% fucking you. So I thought, well, I'll take the deal, and I pleaded guilty to everything.
They put it all together, and you
put it all together. Give me 5 years, 9 months in total.
Jesus. Yeah. And what age were you then? Do you remember roughly?
It was 1994. So how old would I have been?
26 years ago.
Yeah, I'd have been 20. When was I born? 72. So I'd have been 22, 23. Yeah, only a young man.
So talk to us about what the prison experience was like that time there when you went in and that. Did you ever any violence? Any drugs and people?
They were mad asses. When I started that sentence, that was the start. I mean, I'd already done quite a lot of short sentences like the young offenders institutions where I learned prison authority and then fucking bastards. And again, like I remember I said about in the council, so I said you're drawn to your own, and in prison you're drawn to your own. I always like a rebel and non-conformist. I was always game to sort of like stick my middle fingers up at the system and all that because it was, you thought that was cool and whatever else. I'd already done the Felthams, the Rochesters, the Finnemar Woods, like the young offenders institutions, and learnt the trade because they were mad asses. And then when I got that sentence, I went to Highdown prison in Sutton, which had just opened. And
what category was that at that time?
Category B, but it had a lot of category A's there as well. It was a category B, category A. I was category B. But yeah, I met some fucking good people there. People that I'd done people who I'd done sentence with before in the young offenders institutions and whatever else. You meet them again and whatever. So you're living up to this reputation and this persona that you've created. So again, bit of a fucking rebel. And when I was in Highdown, I was a fucking thorn in their side. Yeah, I was a bit of a thorn in their side. I had a few instances there, and I ended up getting swagged out of there in the end and sent to Belmarsh again.
Any time in the Seg during that sort of?
Yeah, I was next door to Charlie Bronson in the Seg in Highdown.
What did you get chucked in there for? Was it fighting? Or?
No, what happened is there was a fella called David Goddard, lovely man. Dave Goddard, he escaped from Wandsworth Prison. He was the first man to escape from Wandsworth Prison since Ronnie Biggs.
Fair play.
And what happened is they was doing some work on the exercise yard. There was a period, but there was an incident before where prisoners tried to escape by ramming a JCB. People that I know as just of account tried to ram the fence of a JCB, and someone got in it and he couldn't fucking start it, or the key was jammed or something, so it fell apart. But just after that, the works were going on. They'd put a fence up, and David Goddard, he's only a small fella, he managed to climb up the fucking fence, actually get on the wall, stood on top of the wall, went to the screw, see you later, and jumped out. So when he got nicked, they brought him to Highdown, and I was very friendly with Dave. And what happened is these screws wouldn't leave him alone because he was in patches. So we thought, well, fuck them, let's get them. And we made a rope ladder up. Me, Dave, and another fella called Graham, just to fucking wind them up. We made this rope ladder up out of sheets. It was about 60 foot long, just to wind them up. We tied it to the fucking fence, tied it to the bars and hung it out. We hadn't cut the bars or anything. We just done it, just go, fuck you. And then they spun me cell and...
You're lucky you didn't get any time added on for that, was that what you got?
Well, I did, because I got nicked for a knife as well. I had a knife in my cell, yeah. And between me and you, what had actually happened is... I don't speak about it now because I was young and fucking stupid then. It was my first thinking about escaping from custody.
Yeah.
I had another case where I was going to be produced to go to a court. So I made this knife up out of thing and I thought, out of plastic, and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I go to court, I'm going to fucking escape. That's what I wanted to do. Because every man in prison wants to fucking... Well, not everyone, but when you're young... No, if you can escape and go out and have a cup of tea...
Even more brownie points, it's perfect. Do you know what I mean? You still got to serve a sentence regardless if you can get out for a little bit during it.
And I did, as you know, further down the line. But I wanted to escape. And anyway, I got done for that. Put me down the fucking segregation in Idown.
Was that your first experience of segregation?
No, I'd been in segs before,
one,
in young offenders or whatever. It was only for nickings, and you'd be down there, they'd keep you down there for the day or a couple of days or whatever. But in Idown, I was in segregation there for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, kept me in the seg. Because I was just all attitude, fuck you, fuck off, and you know, it becomes a game, and you're down the block, and there's people down the block that you know, and
you like you say, you met Charlie Bronson down
Charlie
there.
Charlie was next door to me because
was he infamous at them times there? Was he?
Oh, he's always been
25
infamous.
Years ago,
he's always been infamous, but he was more infamous then for obviously he'd taken hostages. He was known for that and ripping the roof off of Broadmoor. The tales in prison. It's like a grapevine, and your reputation precedes yourself. But he was known at that time as well, particularly, and what he deserves a lot of credit for his art, because his art was becoming big then, and also his fucking strongman feats. I mean, the man's fucking unbelievable. At that time he was doing like 1,000 press ups straight off. And he had a big beard at the time, and I remember this, he holds the world record. He tied the fucking washing machine in the segregation. There was a little washroom, they used to let him out to do his washing sometimes, and he tied a piece of rope round his beard and round the washing machine and fucking lifted it up to the floor like 100 odd times or something. He's fucking strong as an ox, you know.
And how did you get on with Charlie then? Did you get on with him?
You didn't get to see him
because it's all just spoken through the windows.
In segregation, you don't interact with anyone, but because we were on with Charlie being a category A, with David Goddard being an E-man in patches, and with me with a rope ladder bollock. They didn't put me in patches that time. I've been in patches a couple of times. They didn't put me in patches, but they put me on the same fucking side. So you was on the exercise yard, and they used to let us all exercise for like an hour or half hour a day, and you would go out. Just going to let her out because she's trying to get up to the missus. Yeah, they'd let you out for an hour a day. So I used to speak to Charlie at the window, and that's the first time I got to know him. And I mean, he's a character. He's a character, and if I was to be the best justice I could give him is say, you know what, release him, because he's not a threat to anyone, Charlie. He'll come out, he'll be a celebrity villain, he's got a fantastic sense of humour. He'll come out, march on with his art, move somewhere quiet, he'll do a few podcasts or whatever else. He's not going to offend now. He's fast approaching 70, you know?
Yeah.
Let him out.
He's a good guy then, Charlie was. Your experiences...
Do you know what? I never feel threatened by him. Never feel threatened by him.
Yeah.
And I was in... And when I was in the... segregation with him and David Goddard, we came out one day, and they let me and Dave exercise together on the yard, me and Dave. So, and anyway, as we're coming back in, Charlie's coming out, and he looked mad. This is like he had the mad fucking and the big fucking beard at the time, and he's gone like to freak us out, like it's just having a laugh. Yeah, you do fucking jump, because he's not very tall, Charlie, but at that time he was.
But he's as wide as he's tall, isn't he?
Oh yeah. But he great sense of humour, you know, and you got to hand it to him. I mean, he's been a thorn in their side. They've never fucking broke him. He stood up to them all these years, hasn't he?
Well, I pray that obviously I've heard that he's hopefully going to be getting out of
I hope
this
so.
year. And
Yeah, I hope so. There's fucking
let him
worse
out.
than him that's got out.
Yeah, let him out.
You know? He's
Let him
not
out.
me,
Give
you
the
know.
guy a chance, you know.
Let him out.
And people say, oh, he won't be able to cope out there. Well, he's coped in there. There's nothing worse than in there.
He'll
Like
need
this.
help when he gets out, obviously. But he helps there. I mean, there's plenty of good people that are around him that I'm sure will support him. You know what I mean? He'll come out, meet a little bird or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So you know when during that sentence, were you smoking weed or anything like that in the jail?
Yeah, we was. I attribute, and I say this, that the prison service created 90% of the fucking drug problem in this problem, because what happened is I was away at the time, 94, 95. Michael Howard was the Home Secretary. He was a fucking complete prick.
Yeah.
He brought in something called MDTs, which is the mandatory drug testing.
Yeah.
So in that era, you never saw heroin and things like that in jail. You never see it because it was so frowned upon. You wouldn't see it. But by him bringing out them MDTs, almost overnight, it went from cannabis, because cannabis stayed in your system for 28 days, whereas heroin stayed in your system for 2 days. The cannabis sort of went out of the jails, and the jails become full of fucking heroin. And people who would never have normally tried things like that fucking ended up taking fucking heroin.
Yeah, and I can corroborate that from personal experience, obviously from going away for those few years ago, and the jails are completely full of heroin, and there's no cannabis in there, there's no one smoking cannabis in there.
Mental,
And people are scared of smoking cannabis, but will happily do heroin.
When the prisons were full of cannabis back in the early 90s and all that, they were tended to be a more calm, chilled out environment, and the screws used to turn a blind eye. They say open the fucking window, because it used to stink a puff and whatever else. But people were more fucking chilled. You put heroin in prison and whatever. What you do? Create a load of fucking lunatics that do anything to get their next fix, running around like fucking headless chickens and.
Of course.
Turn prisons into dangerous environments, and any prison officer or any experienced con will tell you that, because I saw the change.
Of course.
You know?
So what about violence? Did you ever have any violent incidents in there, or you had so many friends in there that you didn't have to be violent?
Not
in jail?
really. I mean, I've had a few straighteners in jail, like you do, like stupid things. Always kicks off in flash. It kicks off in jail first thing in the morning, when people have just got up out of bed and whatever else, and people are grouchy and groggy. You go down to like the hot plate or something like that, and someone will fucking push past you or something. You go, you right, man? 9 times out of 10, trouble happens in the morning.
Yeah.
Or trouble happens in jail. It's the younger fucking prisoners that tend to be more fit.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of trouble with prison officers when I was young, because I was so anti-establishment, and I stood up to them, and I thrown my dummy out of my pram, and you know, I've chucked things over them and whatever else when I was young. So you do things like that. That sort of stuff follows you on what's called your page 16, your security report. It follows you prison to prison. And when they see you're that way, they back then I used to get hard time off a lot of them. You know, they'd dig you out, and you know what I mean. Yeah.
So was there any point during obviously this sentence here did you have any aspirations to change at all or anything like this? Or
definitely.
the problem is, it's the worst place in the world though to plan to change, because like you say, you've ran criminals all the time, you know, different ways and better ways. And
when I was young and I was doing prison or whatever else, of course I wanted to change. I'd like my beautiful daughter by this time, like Leanne. I had my beautiful son. I wanted to be a father and all that, but emotionally, mentally, I wasn't capable of being a father figure and things like that, because I'd never been fathered. I never understood, and it's like, it's not that I didn't want to face up to my responsibilities. Of course I did. I just didn't know how. When I was young, I was so fucking lost. I look back on that era, especially when I was a young into crime and all that, and that was a pivotal point in my life. I wish things could have been different, but they weren't. They were what they were, you know.
Did they have any courses or anything like that in jails at them times?
No, I didn't give a shit about it. I didn't give a toss. Back then, there was none of this. They all come in later. Things like ETS, enhanced thinking, R&R.
Yeah, even the home university stuff. None of
You
that.
never had none of that. When you had education, but it was fucking pottery and things like that, and just meaningless
stuff that you can't
fucking
do again.
tasks. Meaningless shit. In Wandsworth, you'd be in the mailbag shop, or fucking Belmarsh, or teabag shop, putting fucking tea bags in a fucking thing. Like, that's going to give you skills to.
Yeah, I was putting the pins through the Sainsbury's badges.
It's fucking ridiculous, isn't it?
And I had to do however many.
You know, if they were genuine about reform and rehabilitation, what they would do with a lot of these young lost people who are just getting into the path in these young offenders institutions, give them meaningful fucking vocational qualifications, not fucking basic English level 1 and 2 or whatever else. That's what they put so much emphasis on that, you know. Well, fucking teach, so right, we're going to make bricklaying available.
That's what it's all about, trades.
Plastering.
That's what it's all about.
Electrician.
Usable stuff that they can get straight
Of
into
course.
work, and these trades generally, they don't mind someone's had a little bit of a tarnished past, they'll give people a chance.
Of course. If they'd done things like that...
It's so easy for them to do those sort of courses rather than all this other
stuff. It's a lot fucking cheaper in the long run, wouldn't it? They're not interested in reform. They're interested in filling prisons and industry. Like anything else, crimes in industry.
Well, the problem is, like you say, where it's... now it's become a profit-making organisation, the prisons, and then the key to every business, like I say, is profit, and so then the key to prisons making profit is having lots of people there, continuous...
It deals with the housing crisis as well, doesn't it? For the inner cities with a lot of the young men. Lock them up. But it also... it's fucking... it's so sad when you think about it, because... a lot of these, I'm not saying that society owes anyone anything, but if you did give them fucking skills and qualifications, if you give me a fucking skill and qualification, I'd have
well, it's like you say, there's I had to say previously, but a lot of these criminals, they're not earning fuck all money, so they're not getting rich for it, so they're not earning as much as the standard tradesman down the end of the street, and so if they could do that and not have to risk of going to jail, they certainly would. Like people
you're living it in the mouth, aren't you? When you're in that life, I mean, every criminal wants to tell you about the big touch they had. What about the fucking times when they were fucking skint and they were desperate and done fucking desperate things? There's plenty of times I did.
That's most of the time, isn't it, for a criminal?
Well, of course it is. You'd have periods where you have a bit of money, but when that money's gone, you're looking for your next fucking desperate fucking act. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And, it's, I'd rather have a fucking stable, regular income like I have now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So when you got out from that sentence there, any law-abiding jobs or anything like this when you got out? What did you...
Well, I tried, but I was too already ingrained and too heavily immersed in that world. All my friends at the time, by virtue of the life I'd lived to that point, all my friends were involved in crime and criminality in one form or another.
Well, there's that saying that if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And obviously, like you said, at that time there, all your friends were criminals, then your future was...
Birds of a feather flock together. And we never. And when I got out, the only help I had, when I got out, it was just fucking prison. Would discharge you with 40 quid. There you go. Go and build a new life.
Same today.
Homeless. Where to go? Where you gonna go? Where you gonna go? If you ain't got a big, strong family or banker mum and dad or whatever when you're a young man, you're only gonna fall back into the usual crowds and whatever else. And that's how it was for me. And I was lucky. I had some very good people around me. I've always had good people around me. And back then, like my mate Jack, God bless his soul, like he was one of the best men ever, and me and Jack were so tight that I'd always be alright. I got out, I'd go and stay with him, and he was very successful in the drug game, whatever else, and so there would always be little things we could do. Can you run this here? Can you do that there? Go and pick this up. Go and pick that up. Drop this off. Drop that off. Pick money, and you'd have an income. You'd have an income, and if you're earning like that. I'm going to sound selfish, but why would you want to at the time go and get a fucking legal job where you got to be up at 9 o'clock every morning, someone breathing down your 8 o'clock or some breathing down your neck or whatever else? It's just you're in it, and when you're in the mix, it's you don't know no different. I would have loved to have fucking had a job, but let's be honest, what job could I have done? I was uneducated. I come out of school with no qualifications because I was already a fuckwit. I had no fucking trade. Do you know what I mean? What am I going to do? I don't know big industry, commerce, or like you're the man for the fucking job. What could I have done? Worked in a factory doing the same sort of shit they get you doing in fucking jail, putting tea bags in a fucking, you're not going to do it, are you? Your ego's up here, you already think you're a someone and whatever else. You're not going to do fucking meaningless tasks like that, are you? And I never did.
Indeed. So at a certain point you end up falling into the trafficking. Was it the drugs come first, or was it the people?
What happened is again I'd met a very organised crew in Aldington prison when I was finishing off that 5-9. I've been to several different jails. I ended up down in Kent. I was shipped out of down to Belmarsh, and Belmarsh sent me to Elmley, which was on the Isle of Sheppey, which was a new jail, and I actually ended up finishing off in a CCAT. It's not there no more, called Aldington, down in Ashford in Kent. It was a old Aldington. It used to be a Balstall, but it became a CCAT male prison. I ended up meeting a crew there out of Bermondsey. He's dead now, a particular fella. I call him Pat in my book. That's a pseudonym, that's not his real name.
Cool.
And out of respect for his family, I won't reveal his name. But he was major, very, very good at what he'd done. And we used to walk round together. I was intrigued, he had that aura about him. And because we're down in Kent, you know, when you're in jails and you're out of town, like we're down in deep, dark Kent, you have your collection of Londoners, the Londoners pulled together, so I got really friendly with Pat, and when I come out, I went to work with him, smuggling, so I was going backwards and forwards to France and Spain and whatever else for 2 or 3 years, and I fell into the people smuggling thing after, because what had happened is up until that point, we'd been doing the crazy robberies or whatever else, and I've still done a couple. I still had my foot in, as it were, while I was working with Pat, but I ended up working with Pat for quite a while, but by this time I was sniffing a lot of fucking coke and whatever else, because I was earning money like I'd never earned before. And I got involved in the people smuggling when things sort of dried up in the puff game, because we were smuggling puff, it sort of dried up a bit. There was an era where a lot of the puff, as you know, turned into like shit puff. It was all hennery and whatever else, and then you started
unfortunately I was smoking it when I was a kid.
Well,
the first things I was smoking all that fucking shit, and you're pulling out the bits of rubber from the
it become really, and that was the Dutch fucking down in
you weren't involved in that way,
No, but I know people who were. It was the Dutch coming
Why
down.
did they get these ideas to do this? Why didn't they just charge more price?
What happened, I'll tell you exactly what happened in that era. There'd been a massive clampdown by the King of Morocco.
Yeah.
Up until then it was like a free reign.
Yes, the stuff was it was no longer on tap, and there was limited supply, and so people had to maximise
it was becoming very thingy. And what happened in Spain at that era, every time when it was Ramadan, like for that month, there would be nothing would leave Morocco, because everyone's in this like holy month. Everything would stop. The Dutch at the time saw this as being a fucking ideal opportunity to go down there and sell their shit. And as you know, like Puff and that used to get, it'd have a stamp on it, like different stamps, like you'd have a Mercedes stamp, a bird or whatever else. So it's like a brand. So if someone says, I've got some Puff, say, what is it? You say, it's a Mercedes. You go, oh yeah, brilliant. So the Dutch would go down there, see what was good and what was selling, and they would copy it by getting fucking henna and fucking car tyres and all sorts of shit, and fucking making it so it looked like it was the Fargo and stamping it with like a Mercedes stamp or something, and people were getting tucked up left, right and centre, so it caused. And in that era there was a lot of fucking murders and everything in Spain in that era. I wasn't involved in anything like that. It was.
But were you loving life at them times there? Obviously travelling with all the drug trafficking and that, like going to Spain and Holland and all this sort of stuff, living the life at them time. You thought you were cloud nine.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I was always quite homesick, because up until that era, I mean, I never really got out. The only time I'd ever get out of the area really was go fucking prison somewhere. But being out there, I always felt a bit homesick.
You didn't enjoy the travelling too much?
Not really. I'm not. I still don't like travelling. I'm not really one of these people who, I don't see the appeal. People go, I want to go on holiday. I mean, she wants to go all the time. It don't appeal to me. Yeah. But I am gonna challenge that. But like I say, I got involved in the people trafficking, because that started happening. We was involved in that in the first sort of thing, and I sort of fell into a firm out there and here that I knew, and I got pulled into it. It was like, I wasn't a willing participant, and I say this, I was pretty much duped into getting involved in this. Before I knew it, I was already fucking involved.
It sounds a lot worse than what it is, but I know a couple of friends who got duped into it at the same time, and sometimes it's not what they think.
I got done for bringing.
Was it Chinese or?
No. It was all Eastern Europeans, Russians and whatever else. Because at the time, this is before freedom of movement, and this is when Russia was breaking up into
from communism still.
So you had people from, I think it was like Belarus and places like that, whatever else, trying to get here. They knew eventually they'd be let in anyway, but they were preempting it. Some of the organised gangs. I wasn't the Mr. fucking Big that the Interpol and everything fucking made me out to be, because when I got nicked, obviously I made no statement, no nothing. So they said, well, you can have the fucking lot then. So British Customs came out to France, and like I say, they illegally fucking deported me. I should have been tried in France. I didn't commit an offence in Britain.
And why didn't you get tried? Because I said
this to James English. I believe at the time, because it was a big ongoing operation out there.
Yeah.
They wanted to pull me away from them, and not just that. It was deterrent sentencing, because it was such a big thing at the time. It was like this new thing. People saying they wanted to bring people back to the UK, give them these fucking super heavy sentences. Because look at it now. They saw the threat then to what's going on now.
It's horrific, and you see how many people are getting brought in every day.
Well, the people that come across it, but also the threat to trade and commerce. The fucking
it ain't
vehicles.
slowed down, is it? It ain't slowed down.
Worse.
It's just, yeah, it is.
For every one they catch, fucking 20 have got through.
Yeah, I know a fella from my ways. He trying to bring the people across to the boats, and the boats end up getting sunk. And they end up having to put the flare out. They end up having to do a bit of time in France for it. But you end up probably doing a shorter time there than what you would have done.
We've done it a couple of times. I say this and I write about in my books. I don't want to reveal too much, but we've done the channel on a rib twice. I had done the crossing once, and someone else done it. And
fuck that. Would you do it during the night?
We did do it during the fucking night.
Obviously.
We did do it during the night on a
going
rib.
across these seas.
It's fucking scary because I can't swim. I don't make a secret of it. I can't fucking swim. But I went, and the fellow who was doing the crossing, he was supposed to do it by himself. But what happened is through Pat, I'll call him Pat, he'd lost a parcel of someone else's, because when you bring a parcel home, usually different investors or whatever else. And anyway, they found out he was doing this crossing. They said, right, you've got to put something else on that he wasn't supposed to put on. Yeah. So when they've turned up to give us that, the fellow who was supposed to make the crossing on the rib said, well, I ain't doing it unless you do it with me.
Of course.
Because he don't want to be nicked with this.
With it.
Because it was, he's taking fucking boxes of coke. He don't want to be in boxing. You're coming with me, and if it goes on top, it's yours. So I had no fucking choice. I had to do it.
Yep.
And I was fucking terrified. Grabbed him round the neck and put it to his neck, and said to him, open the fucking doors to his mate. His mate went, whoa. Like, he's startled now, but I've got it pressed to his neck. So I said, you don't open the doors, I'm going to inject him. See, they tried to do me for 23 false imprisonments. That was everyone in the courtroom and everyone in the fucking court. I should never have been back in the community. I should have been getting treated. Completely insane. He said to me, one signature, I can send you to Baltimore. Nelson Mandela said it. Greatest things in life might not appear to be free, but the greatest thing in life is being free.